we can now watch the Bahrain preseason testing as it's lights out and away we go. And the driver's stuck and now it's lights out and away we go. As the Red Bull gets a great start with the AlphaTauri right behind him trying to overtake, but he's not able to. As we can see, a few drivers, it's the McLaren. He's getting in the way. There is a huge collision.
Hey, wat de gebeurt hier?
As Buddy had a brilliant start, bringing her Alfa Romeo up in P6, down from P17 where she started from. Oh no! I just said it! That she had a brilliant start and she loses it! Nifty, who was leading in lap 1, all the way down now in P5, who spun. And I wonder if this was a collision between him and the Red Bull, or if he spun by himself coming out of the corner. Few more battles going on as the Alfa Romeo now making places. Now back up in P9 and the McLaren of Nifty trying to, the McLaren of Nick trying to overtake him back, but he can't. He's just too slow. The Alfa Romeo is ahead in P9. Or just yellow flags because there was no... Oh. And it's the Aston Martin of James who got a 10-second time penalty and is out of the session as well.
Hey.
The McLaren and Mercedes. Mercedes is faster and overtook Shane. Beautiful move by Davey, who is now in the top 4. Right behind Topias. DRS is wide open. As we can see him, he's right behind the Ferrari, but he is still behind. He's not fast enough. And I think, is this another virtual safety car, or is this a full safety car? And it's a safety car. It's a safety car. I wonder what happened on track this time. And they're all getting really close as the Red Bull is very slow and it's green lights. And the restart has now gone off and the Red Bull is still leading. But the Mercedes of Devi now side by side with Topias trying to overtake him, and he's done it. He is now in front of the Ferrari, as now Shane is making his way next to the Ferrari as well, trying to overtake him into turn 4, and he does it. He's ahead of Topias now. Topias lost out 2 positions at the restart here, as we see a few more drivers in the back as well fighting for positions. Oh, and the Alpine of Leon spinning coming out of turn 10. And I wonder, was this another collision? Did he spin coming out of this tricky corner? Or did he also struggle like a few drivers before him on the curb and got stuck and just slided through with no control of his car whatsoever? He's now very close to his teammate. But does he have the pace to overtake them? Or do they think, okay, this is it, we have to think about the team and let him through? As he is now side by side with the McLaren of Nick, and they're going almost side by side into turn 1. Nick still ahead of him, but the Alfa Romeo of Doromino is gonna have DRS now wide open. What can he do? And he's going side by side with the McLaren. No, he's not. He's still behind the McLaren. He cannot pull out the speed he had just a few moments ago, and is still behind the McLaren of Nick. But they were going very close, as now Lewis and Potato are having a battle, and Lewis is still ahead. And the Mercedes, the Potato, the Ferrari is spinning! Oh, and the Red Bull and the Alpine just had to avoid it as they're now moving up a few positions as he lost out. And Cat is right behind the Red Bull. They are gonna have DRS now. And they're not. No, they do. They just opened DRS way too late. So, they have DRS right behind Winter, who was leading his Grand Prix up until a few laps, 2 laps ago. Do they have the pace? They're side by side, and the Red Bull's going really slow now behind the Alpine. I wonder what's going on with the Red Bull. Does he have damage? Does he need to pit? But now the Alfa Romeo has his second time after asking, and he's side by side with the McLaren, with Nick. But he is ahead now going into turn 1 and turn 2. But he might have DRS. He was still behind him at the DRS zone. And no, the McLaren does have DRS. But Tauri did it. He is ahead now of the McLaren of Nick. So the battle going on at the moment is the McLaren of Nick fighting against the newbie, the new rookie, Geronimo in the AlphaTauri, and Nick is ahead now after the battle they had in the last 2 laps. He is now back up in P4, but it's not over yet because the Alfa Romeo has DRS and they're going side by side, but the Nick is defending very aggressively and is staying ahead now, going into turn 4 and 5. With DRS wide open going into turn 1, as we saw a few overtakes happening there. And we can see now the Haas of Pandi causing a safety car. Pandi spun in turn 10, causing a safety car. So this means a lot of drivers are now getting a free pit stop. Who will have the better start? As we can see now, Nick, it's green lights, safety cars are gone, and we are already seeing a lot of drivers next to each other, trying to overtake one another. Now going side by side, the Red Bull with the Williams, and Nick still leading this Grand Prix, but Shane all the way down to P10. He lost big time now on this lap, with Winter now in P2 and Duco up in P3, Tobias in P4, and Lewis battling with Tobias' teammate, who was the former teammate of Tobias some time ago, for P5, and he won that battle, and he's now in P5. Shane, who lost out a lot this race, has overtaken Cat in the Alpine, and they're going side by side into turn 1. Cat leaving more than enough space for them to drive very clean and nifty. Or we also know him as Shane, is now up in P9 back. And the AlphaTauri of Geronimo and Leon are battling as Leon overtakes him, and we see Potato spinning. Potato's losing out now as well. This is a disaster for the Ferrari driver, who was in the top 6, going side by side with Lewis. And the Alfa Romeo's AlphaTauri is right behind him as well. Now Leon and Lewis battling. Leon, who took who is now the new driver in Alpine, against Lewis, who is the former Alpine driver. But Leon just manages to stay ahead, with them going side by side as well a little bit. But who is faster? Is it Lewis? Is it Leon? As we see now, the Alfa Romeo AlphaTauri also joining the battle with Shane also right behind them. And Leon, and Lewis, they collide. But Leon is on track, still ahead of Lewis, but Leon lost out a lot of positions as Alfa Romeo is ahead of them, and Shane also gaining on the collision between Lewis and Leon. But Leon is right behind Shane, now wanting to get that position back as well, as he is just sliding there a little bit, with Lewis again right behind him, as we see the McLaren of Shane trying to overtake the Alfa Romeo AlphaTauri, but the AlphaTauri is too fast. Shane, as I mentioned, now DRS wide open behind the AlphaTauri. What can he do? Can he overtake? He is close, and he is close enough to overtake him, but they're now side by side with the AlphaTauri. Probably behind. Yeah, he is behind him, and the McLaren had the DRS as well. Leon also behind them, trying to look for a gap as Lewis is going very wide into turn 4. Tobias, DRS wide open. Now 3/10 behind the Williams. Is he close enough? He is very close. Side by side going into turn 1, but they touched. And the Williams is going off the track. But Tobias is still behind him. Now DRS as well, going side by side. And he overtook him. The Williams is now behind the Ferrari. Tobias now back in the podium position, as we see Dooku trying to get his position back, and they collide. Tobias spinning and Dooku spinning, driving right into his side pod. And now Tobias, this is it for his race. And the Williams again driving against a Ferrari, but this time against his teammate, against Potato. Potato gaining a lot of pace there with his DRS open, and the Williams waving across the track, going side by side, going into turn 3. Now DRS wide open for the Williams, going side by side with the Ferrari, now going into turn 4, coming out of turn 4, going into turn 5, and the Williams is still behind the Ferrari, and they touch as well. Dooku is now getting frustrated after losing so many positions, right behind the teammate he took out earlier. The Ferrari is gonna do everything he can to stay ahead, as we see a few more battles going on further up the track, with Leon going side by side into turn 12 with Devi the Mercedes. Into turn 13, they're battling very closely, very aggressive. But Leon and Devi are still side by side, as they're getting really close, touching tires. Devi ahead now into turn 15, with Leon right behind him, but DRS wide open for the Mercedes, as they're both trying to get the best as Leon is trying to get the slipstream off the Mercedes. Now side by side, as Leon is losing out and spinning as well. These two drivers are going very aggressively in this test race with DRS. But is it enough to launch next to Nick? And they're going side by side, with her still behind Nick. And now Nick is gonna have DRS. Is that enough to overtake Nick in this last lap? We will see, as Nick is still leading in front of Winter. Winter still P2, but Nick still has a time penalty. So even if Winter doesn't overtake him, he will get this win. As now we're getting closer and closer, and it's Winter crossing the line to win the Bahrain test race. Now Shane crossing the line into P3, so a double podium for the McLaren boys.